Okay, welcome back to this Edexcel A-level lesson on Buddhism. This is lesson 2 of 5 lessons on 3.2 Mahayana. We've done 3.1 Theravada and we have done lesson 1 on 3.2 Mahayana, introducing it, its origins, its background and so on. So just to introduce today's lesson, have a look at these pictures here, and just think, what is going on? What's this all about? Look at these many figures. Look at the different colors. Look at how there's a central figure. Look at how the central figure is holding something and touching the earth. What might these many figures mean? They look like the Buddha. Are they Buddhas? They all seem to be in very similar poses. Does that mean they're all equal? One is bigger than the others. Some are different colors. Notice that some are in the sky, some are in the land. They're scattered all over, to be found both in the sky and on the land. But they are everywhere. Curiosity. What is this all about? So in Theravada you should have written an essay on exploring the rejection of the 3 vehicles by Theravada, and Mahayana is one of these 3 vehicles, a second turning, a second vehicle, with the third being Tibetan Buddhism. And within Theravada, the 4 kind of stages of meditation, that 4 trance-like stages you go through before you're ready for Vipassana. But you should have done it already. Our key scholar Basham says this, and this is just to again prompt your curiosity. The Buddha had 3 bodies. What? Somebody has 3 bodies? Are they? It's not even schizophrenic. How can you inhabit? That seems contra all our Western ideas of what is an individual. Think maybe Richard Swinburne's split brain theory, just suggesting how unlikely or how improbable or how we feel it's impossible for us to be in 2 places at once. But how can we be in 3 places at once? Can we divide our essential being into 3? Well, the Buddha had 3 bodies. The body of essence, the Dharma Kaya, Dharma meaning truth, Kaya body, the body of bliss, Samba Kaya. So the Samba Kaya is the blissful state, the heavenly abode state body. And the transformation body, Nirmana Kaya, body of change, of transformation. It was only which lived on earth as Siddhartha Gautama, keyword, an emanation of the body of bliss, which dwelled forever in the heavens as a sort of supreme God. But the body of bliss was in turn an emanation, there's that word again, emanation, of the body of essence, the ultimate Buddha, who pervaded and underlay the whole universe. This is from the chapter on Mahayana that you will be doing as an anthology piece, so it's very important you understand this piece of text. What is he saying by these 3 bodies, by this idea of emanation that is basic to Mahayana Buddhism? How in Mahayana Buddhism is the Buddha understood to be a cosmic presence that influences the world? Look at these pictures, they're all suggestions. Look at this central picture. This is the Asian idea of Mount Meru. For many centuries, perhaps millennia, in the East there is this idea that there's a flat earth and at the center a great mountain, which is the abode of the deities, the devas. And Mahayana picks up on this idea and develops it. Look in the far right. You've seen this symbol before. How many colors? 3 colors, all merging together. And then look at these typical pictures on the left, the far left. There seems to be in the very far background a Buddha that is very light blue. A Dharmakaya is that. Then you have the heavenly body, and then you have the earthly body, and then here we are at the bottom, the fourth little figure, meditating on all of this. So, and yes, the middle left picture, here's another celestial being living in the heavenlies, but he's bigger than the other figures. Who is this? What's this of? So this idea of emanation, think Russian dolls, and I find this picture of bodhisattvas or Buddhas emanating from each other. And I think that it's a very helpful concept or way to think about the bodies. There is an ultimate Dharmakaya body, and then out of that comes the Sambhakaya, the bliss body, and out of that comes the earthly transformation body, and others in fact would come out of that. So lesson 2 builds on lesson 1. We've looked at the development and the context in the 2nd century BCE and 1st century CE of Mahayana Buddhism. And now we're focusing on the extension of the concept of the Buddha to include the Buddha and all creation, or as creation, or with creation. Maybe the word pantheism might creep in here, although not all Buddhists are keen on this word. The specific concept of the Buddha as a cosmic presence that influences the world. All is Buddha, Buddha is all. And in further lessons we'll get on to how from this and other ideas comes Buddha nature and the different schools that were developed. So we've mentioned Basham, we'll come back to him shortly. So in general today, Mahayana Buddhism emphasizes enlightenment is attainable for everyone. Everyone. And there's a stress on becoming a bodhisattva, a being of enlightenment, a being of compassion, whether a celestial bodhisattva, as in the image here of Avalokitesvara, or an earthly, ordinary person helping others. We should develop compassion for everyone. We should follow the ideal path of becoming a bodhisattva. We should attempt to meet almost every religious and philosophical need of everyone. It's an ambitious project to be a bodhisattva. And this is what Mahayana Buddhism emphasizes. Mahayana teaches and emphasizes and practices the body is to be viewed positively. Some people have critiqued Buddhism as it's negative about the physical world, that it wants to escape the physical world. And maybe this could be a critique of Theravada. But Mahayana is very open to the material world, very positive about it. Mahayana is replete with art and music of great variety. It's very engaged in the sensory idea of devotion. Maybe this is the influence of bhakti. Remember last lesson, puja in Hinduism. But Mahayana wants to engage the 5 senses. It wants it to be an emotional form of Buddhism, a physical form of Buddhism that leads to a spiritual transformation. In a way, the sacred and the non-sacred is bridged, or I don't want to quite say the secular, but the physical and the non-physical, if you want to put it that way. And these practices developed away from Theravada, you could argue. Many Theravadins would want to point out that they too engage in devotional practices. But as you look at Theravada, it does seem to be emphasizing meditation and reading the Pali canons and memorization. Although this would be refuted by Bhikkhu Bodhi and others. The main emphasis of Mahayana thus is on compassion. And what is the word for compassion? It is karuna, and has a broad meaning which includes compassion, empathy, kindness and sympathy. The idea is that all of us are part of the same ever-changing universe, and deep down we are really not that different. To act kindly to another, now this is really interesting, is to act kindly to oneself. This is the idea that if we are empty, if the parts that make us up, the skandhas themselves, are made of parts, they in a sense are empty. If we are all just made of parts and the world is made of parts, then we're all interconnected. In the metaphor of Indra's net, we're all interdependent. And if there is no me and there is no you, to help you is to help me. So karuna is to take compassion in a way to another level. The idea of compassion in Buddhism is taken to regard enlightenment. A person becomes enlightened not simply for his own sake or for her, but for the sake of others. You're pursuing enlightenment because you never get enlightened, because you don't exist. But in pursuing enlightenment, you're helping others. In acting kindly to others, you're helping yourself. The person who becomes enlightened and returns to this world, or stays in this world, is thought of as a bodhisattva, a being of enlightenment. This is why it's paradoxical that Mahayana looks like it's in some ways like Theravada, seeking enlightenment, and yet it doesn't want to get to Nibbana. Remember, the idea of Nibbana and samsara both really are in the two truth doctrine, the conventional and the ultimate truth. Neither of these utterances is ultimately true. Nirvana is samsara, samsara is nirvana. So there is an openness in Mahayana Buddhism, an openness to different religious paths. Think Hinduism and the four spiritual paths or bhaktis. Raja meditation, very much like Buddhism. Think karma yoga, being charitable to others. Think the form of bhakti that is intellectual bhakti, or the form of bhakti that is devotional bhakti. Okay, and Buddhism is open especially to this devotional side, Mahayana Buddhism. Mahayana is open to anything that will help. It's ultimately pragmatic, a person spiritually. This is a very important idea, the idea of upya. Think the parable of the burning house. You could really pause now and go and look that up from the Lotus Sutra. A father holds up an empty fist and says there's something inside to get the attention of his crying children, and it is a Zen metaphor. Well, in the Lotus Sutra, the father says, come out of the house, children. The house is on fire, but he doesn't tell them this. He says, I have got something for you. He lies, but this is skillful means. So, in Mahayana, the universe is filled with the divine. Thich Nhat Hanh, famous Zen teacher, talks about the paper is full of the cloud, or the flower is full of the universe. It's empty but full. The universe is populated as well with these holy personalities, these celestial beings, but who also abide on earth, these bodhisattvas. And the Buddha was just one of these many bodhisattvas. Now, we're going to have a go at drawing in a second in the next video. I'm going to pause this one, and then we'll be doing some drawing.